Hey everyone, Arbor617 here with another Blender Minecraft animation tutorial, and in this installment I'm going to be showing you how I put together YouTube channel banners. This is something that I actually used to do as a patron perk, but it's just becoming a little too difficult, and honestly I'm not really that good at them. So instead I'll just be making a tutorial showing you kind of how to do them, and then you can do them yourself. And honestly, by following this tutorial you'll probably be able to make banners even better than my own, because I don't spend that long on them, but you can. So let's get started. The very first thing you're going to want to do is, of course, find out, well actually first what you're going to want to do is have a scene or something, and that can all be learned from my main animation tutorial series on Black Magic Studios. So I'll be skipping all the, getting the scene into Blender, setting up all the light, the basic lighting. And what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to be starting from an existing animation. I'm going to be making a zombies banner. So I'm just going to pick the derp team, or team derp. I'm going to go into the animation. I'm going to use this as kind of a starting point. Although in your case, if you want to just kind of make your own custom banner, you may end up kind of, pulling in your own map, bringing in all the rigs and whatnot. I'm kind of bypassing all that because I've got something to start with. And then in this specific case, because I'm doing something from an animation, I'm going to go in here, turn off the show only selected. I'm going to delete every single keyframe out of the scene because we don't want any keyframes, and make sure auto keyframes turned off. That way I can move everything around without it getting all the, stuck up and cluttered and whatnot. So let me save this as some kind of banner thing. I have a folder where I save my banners, which I don't remember where it is. I think it's in my document. It's under Blender Renders, Banners. This is actually going to be 2017. You actually see how many banners I've made total. We've actually done about a year worth of banners. And this will probably be the last one, unfortunately. So, December 2017 banner. So, I've got my scene kind of set up. I have it saved, and we're ready to get started actually kind of making the banner itself. Again, all this stuff in the world, so that's just basic Blender things that can be learned from my other tutorial. So the very first thing I want to do when you actually begin your banner is, of course, what we want to do is we want to make an image that fits in this little spot right here. But what you'll notice is that you don't actually upload a little image that's this small. You upload a full 16:9 image, and then it just kind of crops out that little small spot. And if I go to this and hit edit and edit the channel art, it will say, oh, your recommendation is 2560 by 1440 resolution. However, that's a number that I don't really remember very often, but what I do remember is 1280 by 720. So how does that help us, we might add? Okay, if you type in 1280 by 720, okay, this is a common, 720p resolution. We can type in right here, we can click on 1280 and do an asterisk 2. So we're saying, okay, we're multiplying it by 2. And we get to 560, and then if we go to 720 by 2, we get 1440. And what you'll notice is that that is exactly this. This is basically double 720p. So for me, I always start out just by doing that. I just do 1280 by 720, multiply it by 2. Eventually, you might just memorize this as well. Or if you forget, you can look it up by going to your edit channel art and it'll suggest it here. But again, I always just do 1280 by 720, multiply by 2. Okay, so we're started. We have, this is the resolution. We have our camera size. But the main problem you're going to have is, of course, you upload this full image and it gets cropped into this very small little space. Whether you're on, I'm pretty sure on PC and mobile, it'll be in that little small area. I think I can actually, I don't want to mess with it right now, but it will basically be cropped in that little small slit. So what I do next is in the camera, I actually don't think you need a camera selected. Press N to open up the properties over here. Go to background images, go to add image, and what I've created, which I'll put a link to in the description. Let me know if it's not there. This is just something I did to make banners a lot easier. I'm going to open up this file, which I don't know where I saved it as well. I think it's in Black Magic Studios. It's right here. I have this file that if you want to load up as well, save it where you want, load up the image, set it to be on the front, and now you get this nice little thing that kind of shows you where it's going to be rendered and where it won't be. You can also make it increase the opacity a lot like that. So now you can see, okay, this is what's going to be in the banner. Everything else is pretty much going to be cropped off unless you're on a TV. And who really watches YouTube on the TV and visits channels and stuff. So now we've got a little slit that we want to keep everything in that little bit. So we can start kind of finding a good location. Right now I'm kind of looking for, we can probably put the characters right around here, have zombies come in here, zombies coming from that side, maybe something like this, and then just kind of roughly start putting in the characters where they need to be. One thing you can also do, just like when I made thumbnails in the tutorial series, we can split the screen, have the bottom screen in the in like the view of what it's going to look like for the banner, something kind of like that. I mean, roughly like this. There we go. And then in the top view, we can move around in 3D, so we can get like a sense of what it'll look like. I'm actually going to turn off the display, or set it to be only render. That way it looks a little better. So now in the top view, we will just start laying out the characters where we want them to be. And this is, of course, this part. This is where it comes in all up to you. And I'll be showing you cool stuff, as well as like 3D text and things that I didn't normally do in some of my later banners. I'm going to start kind of laying things out, but I'm going to show you the more things that are helpful to you as far as actually, making the banners, because you don't need to really know how to move things anymore or do the very basic, posing and setting up the samples and whatever. So just going to get some kind of very basic thing going, and then we'll switch over to the more educational portion. I'm just going to put some in the right place. Okay, so this is a good start. Also what I'm going to do, I'm going to append a quick Steve, because for my banners I always have a Steve, because these banners are given to people and people will replace the Steve. Okay, so I just kind of breezed through a few facial setup stuff, just kind of skimmed over that. So I kind of set a basic pose, but now you've got the basic idea. I showed you how to bring in the thing. If I hit render, let me make sure I'm in slot 1, and actually let me make sure the samples are turned way the heck down. So they're probably really high for the, yes they are. Let me make them very, very low. I'm going to turn off denoising real quick. But basically what I've showed you so far, that is probably the more complicated thing. That's probably the most thing that will help you as far as doing these. And I could do lighting now and show you how to make it not look, very dark. But I think I'll do the 3D text first, as lighting is kind of one of the final things you want to do, because the text may even interfere with the lighting. So if I do Shift A and go to text, we have created a text element. And if you've seen my old names above the head tutorials, it's very similar to that, although we'll be making it a little more 3D. So hit tab, we'll type in your name, and then hit tab again to go out of edit mode. And then I'm going to rotate it on X 90 degrees just to make it straight up. And then in the text settings, the first thing I'm going to do is change the horizontal alignment to center. That way it's right in the middle, so I can kind of rotate it more easily. So now I can rotate around the Z, make it kind of face the camera, maybe put it down here. Let's look back in, let's try to get it about even, oh, I did not mean to do that, just kind of instinct. We'll kind of maybe raise it up here a little bit. You can even rotate it to make it a little more level and whatnot. But you'll probably also, let me actually do a real name. Let me just put in over 617 or something. You're going to want, an actual font. And you can download fonts online. You can use existing fonts. I like to just download fonts. I have a folder. If I go here into the regular, hit open, if you have a downloaded font, and then let's see, here's a bunch of my fonts. You want to look for the .otfs. For this one, I'll probably do Pierce to bold might be good. Yeah, that's a nice, good, thick font. So you'll get a nice font. And again, you can just, if you go to a place like Def Fonts, you can get all sorts of, just download any of these fonts that you like. You can look around all over. There's all kinds of genres and stuff. I'm going to go with this one. And what you can do is you can extrude it by changing the slider under the text settings. And already you've got some cool 3D text. And what I would like to do is actually do something. You can do like a double. If I just make this, okay, we'll make it blue. Let's give it so I'll give it a material and call it text colored. If I make this, cool, it's a nice blue. It just looks a little fake. If I render it out, it's kind of hard to read the text because it's 3D. It's invisible. Why is it invisible? What? I'm actually not sure why it's, because it's on a string. Okay, that was just a scene problem. Okay, let me try that again. I had it on a layer that was set to not render because of something I did for the thumbnail. But anyway, if we render it out, you'll see it's just it's kind of bland. Where it gets 3D, it gets a little harder to read. So what I like to do in my text to make it a little more interesting is if we get the text just the way we like it, let's say, is that about centered? Seems about centered. Anywho, as far as the text, what I like to do is get it kind of roughly the way you want it, hit Shift D, and hit Enter. So now I've duplicated it. And on the second one, for the material, we're going to call it, we're going to hit Shift and hold Shift and press this plus button. So now I've duplicated that. We're going to call it text outline and make it something like a very light white kind of color. But then in the text settings, we're going to make it less extruded and more offset. And then you get this nice kind of visible readability to it. I'm also going to actually go back to text colored. We're going to set it from a diffuse to an emission. So now if I render it out, rather than it being this kind of dark, illegible little kind of blob, now you get, oh, it's a little too bright. Now you start getting a nice kind of color and shape to it. So again, these are the nice little bits of text that, you know, I stopped doing these on the banners, but now that you know how to make them, and now you see how easy it is to make them, now you can start making them on yours. You can play a lot around with the overall kind of shape of this. Now I can make this actually like less extruded like that, give it a little more, then you kind of get the white around the edge. Just gives it a little bit more definition. We can take these and make it, let me give it a little bit of resolution and there we go. Now we kind of rounded it off a little bit. And if you want to make it glossy, you can get some nice kind of light shining off the edge. I'm going to actually pull that in just a tiny bit. There we go. That looks pretty good. So now, really the last step is just lighting. And what I always do for my lighting, you know, if you're on an outdoor scene, you won't have too much of this, but because this is a kind of dark scene, I just go crazy with spotlights. I'm going to make I said spotlight and made a point light. There we go. Change it to a spotlight. Make spotlight. I go show cone. You can see what it illuminates. And you just start going around. I turn up the blend a lot to like 0.8. Decrease the size a bit so it's just kind of illuminating like the characters. And you just start playing around with this. This is a stage that just goes on for a while for me. I just go around illuminating all the characters. Usually when I light a character up though, and I think I kind of like it that way, I'll go and set it to not show cone, otherwise you end up all these cones everywhere. So I'm going to turn off all these show cones, and you can just kind of start eyeballing it now. You just want to kind of light all these zombies up, all the characters up. I'm also going to want to bring in some more zombies, so I'm going to actually kind of cut away while I go do that real quick. Okay, so I've just added in a few more zombies now, and playing around a lot with the lighting, just kind of making sure everyone's illuminated. You can also play around a lot with the kind of colors. Sometimes these lights can be a little more orange. I also like to do sometimes where I'll have, we got some basic light on them, but I can do something like a point light and make a kind of orange point light on one side, and then you can take like the opposite color, like a kind of light blue, and do it on the other side. So I put, let's see, like an orangey light here. That's kind of yellowish, but whatever. And then go over here, and then make one much dimmer, but kind of make it like a lightish blue. Might even dim this one a little bit more. This one like 80. Let's see where we're at on lighting right now. So this is what it kind of looked like before. Normally you'll do a lot of tests using these slots. For the purpose of the tutorial, I'm not doing too much. Again, the lighting part, back to the animation tutorial series. There's not much in here that's not explained in the animation tutorial series. What I really wanted to show you with this, and there's no lights showing up at all. What the heck? And I think they're all on this layer. Yes, they are. And let me just get rid of this layer. It's the second time this layer's messed me up. The reason this layer is here, again, was the volumetric stuff I was doing for the thumbnail. So let me put all that stuff back on layer 1. And again, the stuff I wanted to show you was the, you know, setting up the image that kind of shows you where you want to be in, showing you how to kind of split the screen, showing you a bit about, okay, so right now you already see the old man's face is way too bright, which is probably from this light right here. So I'm going to move this back and make it a lot more dim. I also noticed the derp seemed to be lacking some light from over here on this side. The dirt was kind of dim, so I'm going to put a little spotlight on him. We increase it like 150. You just start playing with these numbers, and that's basically it. When you're all done, you honestly just go to, you know, samples, increase the samples a bunch, turn on denoising. You can play around with the 3D text. You can make them different colors. You can make outlines. You can take off outlines. You do whatever pleases you. And by doing this, you can probably spend a lot longer on it and make a way cooler thing than, you know, just the ones I did. The ones we did were pretty plain. I usually just took a scene from the animation or the thumbnail and just kind of arranged it a bit, and that was honestly about it. Some of these zombies are kind of lacking in some color, so I'm going to give them some kind of warm orangey lights. Spotlights you sometimes have to turn up pretty darn bright in order to see anything. So you can also have spotlights that are kind of like way up above. They kind of cast down on multiple as something like this. So here's where we're at so far, and it looks pretty good. The text is a little glowy. There's a few things we can do with that, and I'll show you in a second. I'm going to also turn down the lens distortion a bit. That was a little more intense because it was a thumbnail and you couldn't really notice it, but here for the banner it really kind of warps out the edges. And also I'm going to start putting on a little more light on the zombies over here, a bit dark, and the zombies back there are a little bit dark. It may also increase the depth of field to make the kind of front blurred out. But what I was going to do with the text is we're going to actually try swapping these two colors around. You can make it so the text itself is like a dark color. So let me do text. Text outline is actually going to become so we call it text colored, text uncolored. But we're going to make it so that it's got an outline, and they'll make maybe like a kind of dark inside, which might look a little more interesting. So I think, yeah, some zombies over here were a little dark. So let me move another spotlight over on these guys. Alright, so here's an updated render. Some more light on the zombies. Some more light on the characters. It swapped out the text. You can compare, here's what it looked like before. Yeah, and it was very kind of bright on that one. The outline works a lot better in the dark scenario. If you're on an outdoors thing, you'll probably want the inside colored and the outside white. But for this dark environment, it kind of works better the other way around. Lit up the zombies a little more. Lit up those zombies a little more. One thing you'll notice is I have the point light here that's kind of lighting up this side. I'm probably going to change that into like an area light. You can see it's causing a lot of light down here where we don't really want it. So I'm probably going to go switch this over to an area light, and then I can kind of, or I can just do nothing at all. What's going on? Everything's broken. There it goes. Get to kind of face it towards these characters. Maybe even turn it down just a little bit. And on this render, I'm going to start increasing the samples a little bit because we're getting near finishing. We want to see how it starts looking near the end. And one thing to keep in mind while this is rendering is that even though we have this little slit, there will be your little YouTube icon in the upper left covering up a bit if I go to my channel. So you don't want to put like an important character right there. You also might have links down the bottom. So that's why I usually try to put things kind of right in the center. It still seems a little bright on Old Man. I'm going to stop real quick, change it down to maybe like 60, and we'll see how that looks. And it crashed. Great. The good thing about Blender is I can open it right back up, go to File, recover autosave. There it is. It was literally like 10 seconds ago. Save it, double check, oh, it's still my area light. So all I do is change it back down to 60, hit save again, and we're good to go. So here it is so far. That looks pretty good. I'm going to turn the boost down just a tiny bit. It's kind of going a little much on them. Doesn't need to be too much boost because there's nothing really that booshy. We'll turn that one down to maybe like oh, that's the thing that's not even being used right now, so I'm going to get rid of that. And again, compositing, same thing as the animation tutorial series. There's nothing new here. Nothing you haven't seen before. Actually, there might be a little you haven't seen before, but nothing too crazy. And it's finished. As we can see, it's very nice and high quality. Denoising really helps a lot. So we're going to hit image, save as image. I'll put it in that little, in the banners folder. This will be the banner, I'll call it December 2017 banner. This is the default, although I'll actually be taking out that text in a moment for the actual ones. But if I go to my channel and I go to edit my channel art, and I will load up my banner that we just made. It should upload with no problem, and it'll show you how it looks and all the different things. You can see there, that's what I meant by mobile's pretty much the same. I think the text is a little crooked, but again, you can make it not crooked. Yeah, the text is pretty crooked, but whatever. You know, this isn't being used for anything. You see it works. It's exactly as it appeared here when I have the, if you look right here, it should be very, very close as far as, you know, this goes right below his knee. And if I pull it up here, it goes right below his knee. It pretty much gets everything in you want. Everything's centered, everything's good. The text is crooked, but whatever. And it took about, 4.5 minutes to render. Some of them won't take as long to render. This is a dark scene that was a little noisy, so I had to have really high samples. But that's how to make the banners. That's how to do them, everything. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you make some cool banners. If you do make cool banners, post them in our creations on Discord. I'm curious to see them. And thanks for watching. Leave a like if this helped. Leave a comment if you have any questions, or if you just want to let me know that it helped or whatever. And I'll see you next video.